Have you ever been in a disagreement with your partner and the more you explained yourself, the worse things got? Or have you compromised in order to avoid conflict at all in the first place, but then you only built up more and more resentment? Over a long period of time, you just counted the wrongdoings and you counted every time you had to settle for a dispute to come to a resolution, but you felt that you were leaving your best option behind. I think we all want to come into this state of inner calm, resilience, and peace. We all want to be less reactionary. There's actually evidence that states that men fall in love with women when they bring men peace, and women fall in love with men when they feel safe. So both of us, both genders, are seeking the very same state, one where there is no conflict or drama or toxicity. So the question today is, how can we make conflict a positively memorable experience for both parts? This is how to solve conflict without compromising, communicate in a feminine way. In this video, I'll teach you how to navigate conflict with even more ease and how to develop a more strong bond in the process. I'll share with you why it is that compromise is never the aim and what to do instead. I'll give you specific steps as to how to handle stress in order to create moments of conflict that actually communicate closeness, and how to switch a few patterns of speech so that your vocabulary communicates you're on the same team. I'll also be going through real life examples so you can see how these actually create a deeper bond, and I'll show you the love chemicals that are created in doing these things. And if you stay until the end, you'll see an extra bonus point so that in that moment of conflict, you can create even deeper connection. Welcome to Devoted to Extraordinary, where today is the first, last, only, and best day of your life. Hopefully, you are subscribed to enjoy the journey here together. I always answer all of your comments on the videos and the Substack. So, if you want to hear more about the upcoming course, Goodbye Good Girl, I help you reclaim your self worth and reclaim your radiance so you can become that confident woman that you know you can be. Plus, I would love it if you joined the Heart of the Matter book club. We are onto our third month now, and we are in the Telegram chat, choosing what book we want to do next month in the poll. So please join that as well. It is free and open to all women out there who are interested in emotional intelligence. By no means am I saying that men are always going to be the negative reactors and women are always going to be the emotionally stable ones. Very often, it is the opposite. But we want to be as best we can as feminine women for our men to approach us. Hopefully, we'll have chosen a partner who is equally able to reflect and improve. As you know, I am such a nerd for the etymology of words and what they actually mean in the dictionary. Plus, as Alison Armstrong famously says, if you want to know what men mean, turn to the dictionary because they wrote it. The definition of compromise is actually technically negative, even though we use it in terms of if you want a long lasting marriage, there is compromise involved. I completely disagree. I don't think compromise should ever be done because it means settle a dispute by mutual concession or accept standards that are lower than is desirable. If we look at the meaning of concession, it means a thing that is granted, especially in response to demands, a thing conceded. And then, of course, I had to go a layer deeper and look at the meaning of concede, and that is to admit defeat in a contest, or to surrender or yield. I don't know about you, but I am not in a romantic relationship in order to surrender or yield or give up in a contest. I think we're on the same team. I'm here to breathe life into my husband, into my partner, and I want you to feel that you can do the same even at your weakest, most vulnerable moment. It's okay to show that vulnerability and let your guard down. They're not against you. I often say you don't know a person until it gets hard. That's because we show our shadow side or the subconscious mind part of us that none of us actually know until we have to protect ourselves. And then for women, often our claws will come out if we don't trust our man. But we need to trust our man. And it all has to do with trusting yourself even more to state your needs. By no means do you want to spew that anger or that resentment or annoyance onto your partner. They actually, in your faith view of them, in your knowledge of how good of a man he is, have no need for that treatment. So let's not treat men like they're less than we know that they actually are. I think it's true that we're even stronger when we're soft. As I often say to my women, have the strength it takes to be soft. Trust yourself so deeply that you're able to let down your guard in the company of those that you already know that you trust, and you have no reason to put up your walls. G.K. Chesterton's orthodoxy, I am shortening it, but it says the swiftest things are the softest things. A bird is active because a bird is soft. A stone is helpless because a stone is hard. The stone must by its own nature go downwards because hardness is weakness. Solemnity flows out of men naturally, but laughter is a leap. It is easy to be heavy, hard to be light. So, as for the women out there who are incredibly fun, playful, joyful, happy go lucky, isn't that what draws men closer to you? Why is it that we ever have to give that part of us up? I think that is so possible to keep connecting with throughout a long term relationship, and men only want more of it. The question is, do you want to be the bird or the stone? I'm guessing if you're here, you want to be the bird. Nature mirrors this metaphor so incredibly well. To have the strength it takes to be soft means that a river and the water of a river will run through the land until it creates banks, and then it is protected by its banks, but there is freedom in the rushing water of the river. Equally, a pearl is actually a grain of sand that's gone into a clam or an oyster, and it's covered it with layers and layers and layers over the years to the point that it's shiny and beautiful and nature's only actual jewel that doesn't have to be cut or shaped by humans. I also love the concept that stones at the side of a cliff will get softer and softer as the waves hit against it. So, in all these ways, nature also mirrors the fact that we can be even softer as trials go on, and our heart can be even wider open and cracked open. That's how the light gets in. All those classic metaphors, let that be you. So, what I'm claiming is better yet than to compromise is actually the word collaborate. It's better to collaborate because it's the action of working with someone to produce or create something. So, suddenly, as I love to always come back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, instead of survival, where we're constantly having to fight against somebody else and say, no, I'm only going to be okay when, we're taking a softer tone and we're moving up the ladder to self actualization, where we can, in fact, work creatively, think together on something that's going to work for us both. A great example here is if neither of you want to cook that evening, instead of making one or the other cook, or even both of you cook when neither of you feel like it, that would be compromise. Collaborate and decide, let's go out to a restaurant, let's order takeaway, or let's go hungry. Either way, the point is you have new options and new pathways by which you can do something together instead of one of you having to lose out or either of you having to feel resentful, because this is not the way to a healthy, fulfilling, and joyful long-term relationship. Men and women relate to stress in different ways. Women want to talk about it. We are co-regulators, but men want to regulate by themselves and they often hide away in their own caves. We have different ways of expelling our stress. So when we feel overwhelmed as women, we want to turn to our man and be able to talk to him about it. But he doesn't think an issue is being solved by talking about it over and over. He wants to be able to come at it creatively, which is why changing this one word from compromise and resentment and having to build up a record of wrongs is actually exactly what might turn both of your perspectives into the long-term gain. The first most important part for women is, how is it, I always ask my girlfriends, that we can expect men to know how we feel and to know our needs before even we know them? Women are the leaders in the emotional realm, and men are the leaders in the physical realm. They provide and protect and safeguard us, whereas we can look at where it is that the standards are falling in treatment and where it is that the man has to pick up and become even more of who we know that he can be. That is our job in the relationship. We need to keep that nice and neat and tidy. We cannot expect a man to do that before we do. That is simply not his realm. We need to actually be in touch with ourselves enough, with our intuition and with our anger, which is always a secondary emotion and hiding an emotion beneath it that is telling us what our needs are, what our boundaries and limits are. All of this is exploring the idea that perhaps men are responding to the way that we treat them and to the way that we hold ourselves, because ultimately we teach others how to treat us. Be there when things are light, and then remove yourself when things are stressful. It is important to state this. If you're sitting down already talking about it, say, I need a couple of hours, please. I'm just going to take a break. If you can go away and play some music, dance, do a sport that you like, walk your dog, walk by yourself in nature, go for a swim, do something to get into your body. This helps so much because it takes your mind off of the issue while also grounding you. I'm not asking that you go distract yourself, watch a movie, watch a series, scroll on Instagram. That's only going to bury your emotions even further. What I'm saying is be in touch with your intuition by allowing it to come out, by being in touch with your body, because your subconscious mind is actually your body picking up on signals all the time, wanting to protect you all the time. So you can let it speak and send messages to your brain by getting into it. This is years ago what led me to be even more feminine, is allowing my body to speak for itself. Only when you have the vocabulary appropriate to state your needs should you come back to your man. And this is what we're going to get into. When we're reactive, it's hard to communicate effectively. All of these other things might come up, or you might not even know what you're actually wanting as an outcome. What we're asking from another is usually to be able to provide a need to us. But how can we ask them to provide that need if we don't yet know what it is? We're very much stuck in our child brain and in that survival mechanism that isn't yet thinking creatively when we're overwhelmed by emotion. What I often do if I want to do something more calm and less in my body is also breath work or journaling. I can stay inside in my room and just write it all out and really see as a discussion with myself what it is that I'm wanting from this. Of course, it's important to go into it knowing that he's also on your side, he's on your team. You've chosen to be in this relationship, both of you. It's not about winning, it's about connecting. That's the two differences between any task that you ever make. Is it just to fulfill the task and about winning it and completing it? Or is it about connecting and enjoying something together? It might sound a little odd that I say that conflicts can be enjoyable, but when we can put our minds at the end of that conflict and root them there, we aren't so much going with the tide. What I found works best is to actually come to him in a time that everything is easeful already, instead of asking, hey, can we talk tonight? That can sometimes put men on edge because they'll think that it's incredibly serious or they won't be looking forward to it at all. So if you're already having a date, then it's a good time to bring something up. So once you've come back and you're ready, knowing what it is that you need, it is so vital to actually speak in a calm and open demeanor, whereby you are his teammate. How you do something is so much more important than what it is that you do. Just like texting something completely removes the tone and the body language, you can use tone and body language, not just the words, in order to communicate that you are open, calm, and ready to be understanding. Tone is everything because when you speak in a calm manner, it invites cooperation and closeness. But when you speak as if there is a full stop at the end of every sentence and you need to get out the next word, it is just not nice to hear. Nobody wants to listen to that, let alone hear what's actually being said beneath all of it. So, if nothing else, try to speak slower than you usually would, because this will force you to really think about how it is you're sounding rather than just what it is you're saying. Try to frame statements around your feelings and your needs always. Here is a phrase that has saved me countless times because not only is he understanding the impact that he created, but equally he is not feeling blamed by me, which invites that improvement. The statement is I feel. Here's an example. I feel frustrated when plans change last minute because I value consistency. What you haven't said is you change plans last minute. You make me so frustrated, or even you're inconsistent, but rather you've shared all those points of view in a very respectful way. This is why how you're saying something matters so much more than what is said. It's true that nobody can make you feel anything. However, those that you surround yourself by and their actions will greatly impact you. So, when your person hears this statement from you, he'll realize, okay, it's important that I change. It's important that I be more consistent in the plans and actually follow through with what I say I'll do. The next thing you can do, and he will greatly value, is you seeing his perspective. I think one of the definitions of love is actually having a mutual understanding and seeking to understand your person. So when he has his turn to say why it is that he might be changing plans last minute, it's so important to validate that and say, I hear that you're stressed about work. I can see how that's overwhelming to you. He will feel so much more understood simply because you said what it is that you heard instead of quickly reacting or stating your next need. He'll notice your empathy and your willingness to extend further to his point of view rather than you just stating your own and that feeling relatively selfish or like he wouldn't also want to practice empathy with you. Of course, it's very important to remain in that frame of collaboration instead of that compromise. So constantly remind, what is it we can do differently next time? How can we work better as a team? And then, of course, a greatly disarming thing to do is to be that softness in showing vulnerability to remain connected. Remind that I'm sharing this because I care about us and I want to make things better. I'm sharing this because this deepens our emotional connection. I'm sharing this because it makes me feel safe and I hope we can remain on the same page. When you're letting your partner in on what your intention is with what you're sharing, he will be able to see she's vulnerable right now. She's not attacking me. This is about us. But I want to share with you what it is to actually navigate these in life and build them into your practice instead of just leaving them as notes in your journal. If you're familiar with attachment, you understand that there is both secure and insecure. Insecure is, of course, what we're talking about here. It can be either avoidant or anxious. I tend to work with women who are anxiously attached, wanting to be secure, and they might be in relationships with their partners, their men who are avoidantly attached. Typically, an avoidant man will shut down during a conflict because he will not have grown up in a space where it is safe to open up or address his emotions. He may not be comfortable with showing emotion or even you showing emotion. His silence will often signify overwhelm and stress, not disinterest. He's hearing everything you're saying. It's just that his survival mode is absolutely bleeping and wanting him to flee from the situation right now. It is so important to create safety as well as you can. The chemicals in the brain of an avoidant man are simply dopamine, which are the pleasure receptors. On the other hand, though, unfortunately, he is experiencing deep stress, absolute cortisol highs, which are blocking his oxytocin receptors. So he's constantly seeking little blips of dopamine throughout the day by scrolling on his phone, by having a little laugh with you here and there, and that is the extent of his love. It is only like 25% of what he's capable of actually truly feeling. He's also incapable of building vasopressin bonding with you. Vasopressin is the chemical that is deepened and activated when both of you solve something together. And as they say, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. Your chain of love will simply grow stronger and stronger because you'll have gone through so many events and he will see you as a reliable partner who he can turn to because even when it's hard in life, you're there. So that is that vasopressin bonding. But avoidants tend to lack this. Oxytocin also is that beautiful love chemical that is exuded when you're cuddling together or holding each other. And it's also released between a couple after sex. That's when oxytocin floods our veins. Unfortunately, for an avoidant man, his oxytocin receptors will be shut off. So he will be in extreme fight or flight mode during that conflict. And he will be shut down. And it's so important for you as a woman to be able to say to him, I am here to listen when you're ready to talk. In another scenario, he gets defensive, and it is so important again to reiterate I am not here for disrespect. Stay calm and avoid escalating the situation. You do not need his emotions to escalate yours or vice versa. Just say, I see that you're upset. Let's take a step back and figure this out together. If it really is escalating, it is so important to say, I'd like to finish this conversation, but only if we can keep it respectful. And try again to mirror that lower tone as often as possible, because what we tend to do as empathic human beings is mirror each other's behaviors. In the company of someone who's quiet, we'll tend to lower our voices, and in the company of someone who's super loud, we'll tend to actually match that energy. In the third scenario, you're feeling unheard, and if you're really feeling that you can't assert yourself if you're being feminine, it is untrue. Start to use vocabulary to express those emotions, like, I feel unheard. Would it be possible if we took turns in sharing our thoughts? Suddenly, you can put words to your feelings, and you're not left alone in thinking, I can't speak up and still be soft. No, simply be soft while speaking without being passive aggressive. Sort through your own anger in that groundedness that we started with so that you can come back to this with utter peace and love for your partner. There is a difference between firm and aggressive communication. Aggressive is no longer feminine. That would probably be starting to escalate yourself. On the other hand, firm communication is simply stating those boundaries and needs, and if need be, actually expressing the consequences, because it is only a boundary if you actually follow through with showing what happens if they don't respect it. So if you say, I need it to remain respectful, and then they don't keep it that way, you say, I need a break from this, please. Let's take 30 minutes. But make sure that you actually come back and resolve it, because I am never a kind of person who can actually go to bed angry. That is sad for my soul. I want the stone to drop from your soul and breathe effortlessly in this relationship of peace and safety, because the one thing we can rely on in this world is change. Change in every circumstance. But we are the ones who actually see that change happen. So if we can stand firm and resilient and communicate collaboratively, suddenly there's no need to be resentful or compromising or lack femininity. So these are all the things that you can shift as a feminine woman: how to be slower, how to let down your guard, how to remain anchored in yourself and in your needs, and how to not blame your person. Our bonus point in resolving a conflict is, in the moment, being able to pause. Have you ever heard a piece of music that is absolutely extraordinary, coming to the crescendo at the end, but suddenly there is a pause and a silence, and then it carries on? Do you not appreciate that second part of it so much more? To be able to pause in a conflict means that you can change the tonality, you can change the direction in which it's going, and you can remind each other of the gratitude of choosing one another. So if you can say, let me think about this for a moment, you might notice how he actually comes to your rescue and attempts to think about it with you without you having to do even more. If you want to remain feminine, lean back further than your man is leaning, quite literally, physically, and emotionally. If he is leaning back in this conflict, then you lean back even further. Allow for him to bridge the gap between you. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. It really, really helps the channel, and I'm loving getting to know you all. And if you want to know more about habits to become a more feminine woman, I have this amazing video that will help you boost your feminine energy, where I take you along with me for 2 days and show you the 10 habits that I tend to use to be even more soft and nurturing to myself. Until then, as my Oma said, harden not your hearts, love and serve each other.